Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into a really big topic, one that's sparked debate for, well, forever it feels like. Science versus religion. But is it really a versus? Is it this inevitable battle? Or maybe, just maybe, have we misunderstood how they connect? That's what we want to explore today. And our guide for this is a fascinating book, Paradoxical Sajid, Vol. 1 by Arif Azad. It's a book that really makes you stop and think, presenting ideas that seem, contradictory at first, but then reveal something deeper. We're going to unpack some of its core arguments. So let's start with the common view. You probably think, okay, science and religion, they're like oil and water, right? Religion relies on God, miracles, revelation maybe. Science leans on data, hard evidence, logic. Seems pretty clear-cut, like they're enemies. But Sajid, in the book, right away, he offers a different angle, a really nuanced take. He says the real conflict, the actual tension, isn't science versus religion. No, it's materialism versus spiritualism.
Yes.
That completely reframes it, doesn't it? Materialism being the idea that, well, only physical stuff is real. Everything boils down to matter and energy. And spiritualism acknowledging something more, something non-physical, maybe transcendent. Sajid uses this great analogy to explain it. He says, science is like a torchlight. It can illuminate what's inside the cave. But religion tells you why you entered the cave in the first place.
That's such a clear way to put it. It immediately suggests they might not even be asking the same questions. Science is mapping the cave, showing us how it's structured, how things work inside it.
Yeah.
While religion is focused on the why are we here? What's the point of exploring? They could be complementary, not competing.
Exactly, complementary. And that challenges the whole archenemy's idea right from the start. Speaking of challenging assumptions, here's something else from the book that might surprise you, historically speaking. A lot of the science we take for granted today, the very foundations of many fields, they were actually built by deeply religious Muslim scholars. I mean, think about it. The book gives some really concrete examples. Algebra, that comes from Al-Khwarizmi, is literally named after him. Algorithm. Optics, how we understand light and vision. Huge leaps forward came from Ibn al-Haytham. Medicine, well, Ibn Sina, or Avicenna, as he was known in the West. His work was central for centuries.
His canon of medicine was a standard text.
Right. And astronomy, too. Scholars like al-Biruni and al-Tusi, they made incredible contributions to understanding the cosmos. And the key point Sajid makes here is crucial. These individuals, they weren't atheists challenging faith, not at all. They were devout Muslims. They saw their scientific work as a way to appreciate Allah's creation, to understand the how as a path to appreciating the who, you could say.
It was almost an act of worship for them. Studying the intricacies of the universe was seeing the fingerprint of the creator.
Precisely. So Sajid poses this really direct question in the book, something for you to think about. If religion truly opposed science, how could an Islamic golden age ever exist?
It's a powerful point. It really forces you to question that narrative of inherent conflict. That history shows periods where faith and reason, well, they spurred each other on. Makes you wonder why that relationship seems so fractured now in popular thought.
That's a really good transition, actually, because it leads us to this modern idea, almost a myth, that science has all the answers. Or, if it doesn't have them now, it will eventually figure everything out. Like science is becoming all-knowing. But Sajid pushes back against this. He argues quite simply that science describes the how, not the why. Let's make that practical. Take rain, for example. Science can explain the water cycle perfectly, right? Evaporation, clouds, condensation, precipitation, the mechanics are clear.
The physical processes.
Yeah. But science can't tell you the purpose of rain. Why does it exist in the grand scheme of things? Is there a meaning behind it? Science is silent there. Or think about the brain. We can map neurons, measure electrical activity, see which parts light up during certain motions.
Incredible detail, really. Brain mapping is amazing.
It is. But can science measure love? Can it quantify beauty or morality? These abstract, deeply human experiences, they don't really fit into scientific measurement.
You can't put a number on courage or compassion.
Exactly. And Sajid has another great analogy for this. He says, expecting science to answer moral or metaphysical questions is like asking a thermometer to measure sadness.
That's good. It highlights the tool isn't right for the job.
Right. It's not a knock on science. Science is amazing at what it does. It's just acknowledging it has a specific scope, a specific set of tools, and these kinds of why questions, these meaning questions, they're just outside that toolbox.
And understanding those boundaries is so important, isn't it? For any fields, really. Knowing what a tool can't do helps you appreciate what it can do so much more effectively. It avoids asking impossible things of it.
Well said. Okay, so building on that, here's another layer Sajid adds, something quite paradoxical again. He suggests that even science itself, rigorous, evidence-based science, actually starts with a kind of faith.
That sounds counterintuitive at first. Faith in science.
I know, right? But think about the assumptions science has to make before it even begins. These aren't things it proves, they're things it, well, trusts. Sajid points out a few key ones. First, science assumes the universe is rational, understandable, orderly. Right. If things were totally random and chaotic, experiments wouldn't be repeatable. The whole method breaks down.
Exactly. Second, it assumes the laws of physics are consistent. Gravity works the same today as it did yesterday, and it will tomorrow. It won't just, take a day off.
We have faith in that uniformity. We can't prove it won't change tomorrow, but we assume it won't.
Precisely. And third, science relies on faith in our senses and our instruments, even though we know they can be flawed or limited. We trust they give us a reasonably accurate picture of reality.
We calibrate them, we cross-check, but ultimately there's a baseline trust.
So Sajid points out this irony. Someone might dismiss religious faith as being unproven, yet they operate within science using these foundational assumptions that are also unproven empirically. They're just assumed.
Accepted as necessary starting points. Yeah. Again, this doesn't weaken science. It just shows that both science and, well, perhaps faith traditions rely on some kind of foundational trust to build upon. You choose your starting assumptions.
It really highlights that any system of knowledge needs axioms, foundational beliefs to even get going, whether it's the rationality of the universe or the existence of a higher power.
Makes sense. Okay, let's shift gears slightly. Think about where we are today. We have artificial intelligence making incredible strides. We're mapping the human brain in ways we never thought possible. Genetic engineering. We can literally rewrite life's code.
The pace of advancement is breathtaking, truly.
It is. But Sajid then asks, with all this power, all this knowledge, what still remains mysterious? What questions are left completely untouched by these tools? And he points to things like, well, the human soul, or the ultimate purpose of our existence. Where did consciousness even come from?
The big existential questions, the ones that keep us up at night sometimes.
Exactly. Science can dissect the brain, but it can't find the person in there, can it? It can't locate consciousness or meaning in the tissue.
It describes the machinery, but not the ghost in the machine, so to speak.
That's a good way to put it. And this, according to Sajid, is where religion finds its place. He says it's not to replace science, but to complete the picture. It offers a different kind of framework, one designed for those deeper existential searches that science isn't built for.
Providing meaning, context, perhaps wisdom, rather than just information.
Yes. He puts it so concisely in the book. Science gives us knowledge. Religion gives us wisdom. It's a simple distinction, but really profound when you think about it. And he wraps this idea up with another powerful metaphor. If science is the body, then faith is the soul.
That implies a necessary wholeness, doesn't it? That maybe to understand the full picture of reality or the full human experience, you need both perspectives. One isn't complete without the other, perhaps? Like trying to understand a person just by their anatomy, ignoring their thoughts or feelings?
What a great way to think about it. So, wrapping this all up, the main takeaway from our deep dive today, drawing heavily on Paradoxical Sajid, is this idea that science and religion have to be locked in eternal combat. It's largely a myth. And importantly, Sajid argues it's a myth more rooted in specific Western historical developments, not necessarily inherent in, say, the Islamic tradition he discusses.
Where, as we saw, there was a long history of harmony and mutual inspiration.
Absolutely. The book really emphasizes that Islam historically encouraged scientific exploration. The Quran itself prompts believers to observe, to reflect, to use their intellect to understand the world.
It's an invitation to learn about creation.
Exactly. It's not about shutting down inquiry. It's about motivating it from a place of faith. So let's leave you with this final thought from the book, something to really ponder. Maybe science and religion aren't two opposing forces. Maybe they're two eyes, helping us see the truth fully, clearly, and beautifully.
Seeing with depth perception, you could say.
I love that. Two eyes for a fuller view. Well, that brings us to the end of this deep dive. Thank you so much for joining us. We've been exploring ideas from Paradoxical Sajid, one by Arif Azad. Definitely worth checking out if this sparked your interest. If you enjoyed this, please share it with someone you think might find it thought-provoking. Let's keep these conversations going. Until next time, stay curious, stay thoughtful, and stay paradoxical.